And welcome, everybody. Tonight, I want to talk about the history of the protein diets before ketogenic diets and the Atkins. And I want to give you a quick overview of diets. And remember, when we talk about diets, the first three letters are DIE. So let's do diets. Let's talk about lifestyle. Let's talk about food swaps. Let's get into intermittent fasting. And let's get into a few solutions. Now, this will take a little while because there's a history of people really trying to manipulate the diet for quick weight loss, and it's not effective and it's very unhealthy. Let's go way back to the history of protein diets. And in the 1950s and 60s, it was called the Stillman diet. And the Stillman diet was protein, greasy eggs and bacon, protein, and people literally starved themselves to death because protein metabolism is so inefficient. You need some carbs, and people lost weight and wrecked their cardiovascular system, and most of the time gained all the weight back and some more. And then I saw in the 80s, some of these were physician-backed or sponsored. And this was the liquid protein diet. And you could find it in most cities with a medical director, so people went just wild about the liquid diet or a protein diet called OptiFast. And OptiFast just took off. And people drank these, liquid protein, and they lost weight, and they looked like they'd been in concentration camps. And then many times they lost a bunch of weight all of a sudden. And then when you cheat your body, it'll cheat you. They gained all the weight back and more. And then we found this ridiculous Atkins diet of the 90s and 2000s. It's still with us today. And you can see Rob Lowe, that actor, was a cute boy years ago in the movie Youngblood. But so you'll see today on the television, the Atkins protein bars and the Atkins things because they taste great. You can eat a ton of them because people have gained a lot of weight during this pandemic crisis or whatever you call it. So Atkins is the Stillman diet of before. Greasy eggs and bacon and red meat or chicken or fish. But it's a protein diet, and it really messes up your metabolism. It wrecks your cardiovascular system, and you'll lose a bunch of weight and gain it back and much more. Atkins is just fraught with problems. Now, you'll see a lot of posts that I make about health and supplements, and oftentimes I really get into the addictive nature of sugar. And sugar is a major inflammatory, and it contributes to our top two killers, which are still heart disease #1 and cancer #2. I mean, sugar does inflammation with the heart disease because of it, and cancer just loves sugar. Now, the 5 signs of inflammation, as you know, pain, redness, swelling, local heat, and loss of function. Pain, redness, swelling, local heat, loss of function. When you see an itis, it's caused by inflammation. Now, in sports, it's always overuse. Tendonitis, throwing a lot, bursitis, shoulder, gardening a lot. But then you get into laryngitis, you talk too much like me. But if you see itis and it's internal, it's inflammatory from white sugar and white flour. Now, sugar not only causes inflammation, which causes pain, which causes disease, it destroys the gut health, and it destroys the immune system. And it's as addictive as another white powder we call cocaine. So oftentimes, and this is not adorable, this is not cute, I will see women that right underneath my post that take a lot of time to think about thoughtfully and carefully and watch my words because it's going to be live and then taped and videoed for later. And people can always come back and the women go, yeah, I'm addicted to sugar, LOL. And I go, well, would you LOL if somebody said like, oh, my daughter's addicted to cocaine or heroin? Is that LOL? It's the same. I mean, it's almost the same thing, except sugar's legal. And sugar's in all our foods, especially in boxes and preservatives and high fructose corn syrup, because in the 1970s, the food industry got into this fat-free stuff for the heart disease. And fat-free meant you could add sugar, and then cane sugar from, South America, Cuba, and all that was expensive. So we grew a lot of corn, we still do in this country, which is a really not a very good food. Okay, maybe for some fiber, but it's not a real vegetable that's nutrient dense, so to speak. So we grow corn and make high fructose corn syrup out of it. And that sweetens a lot of our foods. And that's inflammatory. So these women, I can't get LOL. It's not LOL. You're going to die from sugar and might be slow, like molasses running uphill in January. Or it might be tongue, like the bite of a snake. I got that from Romancing the Stone. Wonderful film, Michael Douglas. So let's get into a little deeper of the Atkins versus this newer diet called ketogenic. Now, you'll find out ketogenic isn't that new, but we've just hijacked it to lose weight. So ketogenic should be high quality, healthy fats, 70%. Adequate, healthy, clean proteins, 20% of the total diet. And low carbs meets 5%. Okay. Now, Atkins increases your carb intake gradually over time. It's a type of ketogenic diet because you'll get into ketosis. We'll talk about that later. What does that really mean? How can we use it to our advantage? How can you do it safely? And how can you be helped with some products? So, Atkins will start almost no carbs and high protein, and then your body craves carbs. That's why ketogenic works with 5%. So ketogenic obsesses over carb count. I've talked to a lot of people when I eat keto and I see carbs, they freak out. Not every carb is the same. 1 gram of sugar in soda pop, which is a major problem of disease and our kids getting fat and everything. 1 gram of sugar in soda is different than a gram of a complex carbohydrate in a vegetable. I mean, those are 2 different grams, and one will spike your insulin and one won't. So stop, you keto people. You drive me crazy. Stop comparing grams to grams because there are different types of carb. But keto wants 5% total of carbs. And the only way to do that, I'll explain. So when we talk about fats, healthy fats in our diet, like avocado and coconut oil, they have essential fatty acids in them. You've probably heard of 2 of them. It's in our Omega-Gold, our fish oil. DHA and EPA are 2 fatty acids that are essential. That means that's not optional, that's essential. Okay, so fat has essential fatty acids. Protein has essential amino acids, but there's no such thing as an essential carb. Interesting. Now, with the ketogenic diet, we go way back to Johns Hopkins University in the 1920s. And they had patients, not just children, that were suffering from epileptic seizures. And when they did the ketogenic diet in the 1920s at Hopkins in Baltimore, they were taking patients from 300 seizures a week to 0. I mean, that's just a miracle by manipulating the diet safely and not costing you cardiovascular health, like Atkins and Stillman's and OptiFast and the protein liquid. Man, that's something. We kind of put ketogenic aside for a while, especially when the food industry went to these sugar things in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Fat-free meant sugar. Okay, not fat, but you had sugar. And then fat's got a bad name. Now we know there's really healthy essential fats now, and we'll find out there's coconut oil and olive oil. We have some healthy fats. Now, when I was involved in sports medicine daily, I couldn't get into these Atkins things except protein diets, except for my wrestlers. When my wrestlers had to cut weight pretty quickly to qualify at the beginning of the season, I thought that was a fairly safe way, but knowing they're coming out of it, and then you can load up on vegetables and stuff. Now, how many high school kids give a darn? But I could see dieting safely, not 48 to 72-hour fast, and then you eat 3 Subways and a gallon of Rocky Road ice cream. That's just ridiculous. Coming out of a fast or coming out of a starvation diet to make weight and then just carb loading was just that was fool's gold. So I never looked into this with any great detail, except they really didn't work until we got into some things that Todd wanted me to look at from a scientific point of view. Once you start looking at these things, these are really cool ways to live, because you're cutting out sugar and you're cutting out inflammation, you're cutting out disease, and I mean, what a great way to live with vitality, and it's cheaper to buy some of these products and food groups. You shop on the outer part of the grocery store instead of the inner part. The inner part has the boxes. Stuff in the boxes are preserved and processed foods. Okay. So when you start to look at these ketogenic diets, you're looking for foods that are nutrient dense. They're loaded with vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. We're looking at vegetables, not particularly fruits, because fruits will cause an insulin spike because they have sugar in them. Now, some of your berries have a lot less sugar than bananas. I mean, I used to live on bananas. I thought the potassium was good, but the sugar makes it a detriment. And your sports drinks in sports, your Gatorades, they're just loaded with sugar, and not many electrolytes. You want 2 of the 3 electrolytes you need for constant muscle contraction and exercise. It's on your dining room table. It's called table salt. You need 3 electrolytes for constant exercise and repolarization of the fibers. You keep exercising or running or keeping the second half of a game. You need sodium, chloride, and potassium. Well, if you learn to salt your food more heavily, then you've got 2 of the 3 electrolytes. You really have to manipulate the diet for electrolytes. Potassium's kind of tough, and you can eat a tree full of bananas, and that's not enough potassium, plus it's too much sugar. I think potassium, it's reasonable to supplement. You've got potassium in some foods, but I don't think enough. But anyway, we're looking for, in your life, I don't care what kind of diet or what kind of eating plan you're on, or intermittent fasting, when you come out of the fasting, and we're going to talk about that soon, you want to come out with vegetables, not so many fruits that are very nutrient dense. Okay. Ketogenic has been shown to reduce the inflammation of Alzheimer's. I mean, can you imagine eating your way out of all the degeneration and inflammation of Alzheimer's? Man, and keep in mind, sugars and itis, cancer, sugar, inflammation, leaky gut, the gut-brain connection, eliminate sugar with these plans. Man, that's fantastic. Keep in mind this one hormone, okay? This one hormone that we talk a lot about with insulin, and the diabetics don't make it anymore to break down their sugars, and so they need to take in insulin artificially. Insulin's a hormone, and insulin controls all other hormones. So when your insulin's out of whack because of sugar, or you eat something like, I thought bagels were great for breakfast, right? That's healthy, man. It's not a donut, which are horrible, right? So I take in a bagel. I didn't realize the white flour of the bagel cause insulin response. You have an insulin response, you get insulin resistance. That next bagel could make me a little, fatter the next time. You develop insulin resistance over time. But when insulin's out of whack, so is, I've got a list, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and cortisol, the stress hormone. Insulin controls the other 4 or 5. Add your thyroid hormones. I mean, it's unbelievable. So if you can control your insulin spikes by eliminating sugar, and I'm sorry, alcohol's in there, that's a sugar, baby. Got to watch your alcohol, and I'm speaking to myself. You control your insulin spikes, you control your weight, you control your inflammation, you control the other 5 hormones without, needing a lot of medicine. I'm all for it. Okay? Now let's get to the next part of our program, because we're moving right along. Got to talk about intermittent fasting. Anybody can do this at any time. Well, this is where the rubber meets the road. Intermittent fasting isn't a diet. It helps if you take the tips we did for the first 20 minutes. But intermittent fasting, coupled with decent eating, man, you can really do well with clear thinking, weight management, hunger reduction. Let's talk about the 3 different types. Number 1, alternate day fasting. One day you'll have 25% of your nutrients. The next day you'll have a regular or a feast day. That's alternate day. 2, periodic fasting. Okay? And that's more than 24 hours for a fast. And some religions do 24 hours. And that's a religious part. I think Yom Kippur is 24 hours of fasting and prayer in the Jewish faith. It's kind of cool to really fast and take notice of what you really don't need every day. We eat a lot more than we really have to. And number 3, I think I'm going to talk the most about, because we should all do it all the time, and that's daily time restricted feeding. Okay? And daily time restricted feeding is 12 hours of no food, but ideally 16 hours to burn all the glycogen, the glucose, glycogen in the muscles and the liver where it's stored. Okay? 12 is great, but 16 is ideal. And some people do 16-hour, fasting, they call it 7-11. 7 p.m. till 11 a.m. the next day, they don't eat anything. And that's easy. And that resets the clock. Now, is it science or fad? The American Heart Association thinks it might produce weight loss. It reduces insulin resistance. Remember, we talked about insulin resistant and lowers the risk of cardiometabolic disease or diabetes and that type 2 diabetes and all that. So I'm into it. Chinese medicine. Acupuncture is 5,000 years old. But the Chinese and the Asians never had colon cancer, and they never had some of the problems, arthritis, what we have in our culture, because the Asians respected nature. And so they got up when the sun came up and they went out and plowed the fields and rice paddies and fished. And so they had plant-based diet and they had fish and fresh fish and all that, and they never got sick until we went over there and gave them McDonald's and KFC. They instantly had colon cancer skyrocket. Cancer is a lifestyle. It's not something I'm getting tested for. Well, you can get tested for, but you might have earned it, okay? So what the Chinese and the Asians, when they respect nature, when the sun goes down, it's time to go to bed. It's time to get ready for the next workday. And so when the sun goes down, you're not eating. Now in America, when we're supposed to be not eating anymore, we're tuning on the television and we're snacking mindlessly on processed foods and, my favorite Triscuit or whatever. And then we're having some cheese on top. And it's about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Maybe you have a beer or two, hint, hint. And then we go to bed and your insulin just spikes all night and your blood level just rises and you're all out of sync. You get up in the morning and you crave more sugar. I mean, sugar's as addictive as that other white powder. But if you start looking at fasting, especially, let's do 7 to 7 to start. Don't eat after 7, wake up at 7, you get something to eat. You're going to be a lot healthier, okay? There's not a lot of long-term studies. There was a study on multiple sclerosis patients with the autoimmune. Intermittent fasting reduced symptoms in 2 months. I mean, that's cool because they don't know what to do with MS, once you start to get in the wheelchair and all that. So no long-term studies have been done, but they've shown that it improves your insulin resistance and blood sugar abnormalities and some weight loss. And let's go for it. Now let's talk about the technical definition of ketosis. Ketosis are ketones in the blood. And ketones in the blood are buildup of acidic ketones that you get from too much protein. It taxes the liver and the kidneys and the brain. It can be dangerous to diabetics if you need glucose for their insulin pumps and all that. And you got to watch it with people with heart disease. But that's reckless ketosis and no type of watching carbs and no type of, and watching the high quality proteins. Ketosis was a result of that OptiFast liquid protein diet. We started to see ketosis, acidosis, and some people died from it because that was just reckless. So we're not talking about reckless. Now, Todd put me in charge. And he says, man, you got to look at this new ketonic thing. And initially, we're at the beginning of the stupid virus thing and shutdowns. And I didn't care. And it wasn't that hot out yet. And I tried it. I saw a little bit of a difference. And then I got off of it and I got back on. I kind of like it. And then I got off. And then Todd says, I want you to talk about it. I want you to look at it. Man, I looked at it. Oh, man. There's so many things in this that helps you go into ketosis and burn ketones from the liver. It doesn't get in your bloodstream. It doesn't cause problems. If you ever have a problem, you think that any kind of fasting is going to hurt you, all you have to do is drink water. I mean, it's simple. And so it really helps the kidneys and that any side effects you could get from ketosis. Like I said, that liquid protein was dangerous. So that I had a prejudice against Atkins because it didn't work. And I was tired of that. And I was tired of the OptiFast and people getting sick and dying in the 80s when I first got into sports medicine. And then I started to hear about ketogenic. And then I would talk to these people about ketogenic and they didn't look very healthy to me. And they were counting carbs. And they were obsessed with carbs. And they couldn't make the comparison. Maybe they can to this day make a comparison between what's a carb of kale versus a carb of soda pop. That's just easy to do if you can use your head and figure out this is a good carb or a bad carb because they're not all equal. Got to cut out the grains. You got to cut out the sugar of milk. You got to cut out sodas. You cut back on alcohol. You're gold. Okay. So Dr. McKee came out with a formulation of a ketonic, and it does a lot of things. It puts you safely into ketosis. Now, I had it explained to me by an expert. Ketosis is not a light switch. Over time, through the course of the day and the fasting, or the course of the night, you start to turn on the faucet and you switch from the glucose glycogen stores, which are more efficient for energy. That's why the athletes need more carbs. They need more pastas and grains. They need to store the energy for the second half, you know. Or the marathon, after the mile 21, when you hit the wall, that's a depletion of glycogen stores in the muscle and the liver. And I've hit the wall 6 or 7 times. I've run 6 or 7 marathons. There's no way around getting rid of glycogen stores. But this product puts you into ketosis, burning ketones efficiently and safely. And ketones are a pretty clean burning fuel. They're just not nearly as efficient as glucose, but they're very effective to burn. So this product, and it's got a nice raspberry flavor, and I'll show you my little container. And it's concentrated, so you don't need a lot of product. It's, you know, it doesn't have the fiber of biobasics we'll talk about soon, but this is a great product with a raspberry flavor. And I'm not going to get too technical because it bogs you down. But one of the things it has is a medium chain triglycerides. And these are medium chain fatty acids. They're pretty essential. And they require these fatty acids don't need any energy to break them down to put you into ketosis. They have a direct route to the liver where they're stored and then burned. And they give you a nice supply for the body and the brain. These coconut-based high C medium chain triglyceride are also called MCTs. Now, this is a very efficient a fuel to get things started. Then we have another essential amino acid. There's 23 amino acids in the complete protein. So we've taken a couple of essential amino acids that can help put you in ketosis. Okay, so taurine is a essential amino acid. It feeds the heart, kidneys, and brain. It becomes an essential amino acid during times of heavy exercise or training, some illness or stress or surgery, other major stressors. Supports healthy blood levels and retinal health. Good for your eyes. Okay. Then we've got 2 of my favorites, and you'll see these in a couple of our products, like our amino acid product after exercise. The number 3 of the B products has L-lysine and L-leucine in it. These are 2 amino acids that are fuel for the body. They change you gradually but efficiently from the glucose burning to the ketone burning. It helps to produce another amino acid called L-carnitine, which is a nutrient that metabolizes your fatty acids into energy, helps to maintain healthy cholesterol levels. There was a study at the University of Maryland showing that lysine helps with calcium absorption. So it helps your formation of collagen and bones, cartilage, tendons, and ligaments, and skin. And L-leucine is one of the few branch chain amino acids that are vital for muscle growth and repair. It gets better. It has some caffeine in it, equal to the sip of a cup of coffee. But caffeine really helps to sharpen your mind. Why do you think you have it in the morning? Another nutrient it has is a polyphenol called resveratrol. It's resveratrol. Now, I've had a lot of doctors say to me, I don't want to take your proanthanols because I take resveratrol because it's another nutrient from grapeseed extract. But we put that with our willow bark extract to make our OPCs. But it's known to support healthy aging and recycle old cells via autophagy. Autophagy is a process where you take your old cells and recycle them and make new cells. Now, this is a phenomenon that somebody talked to me about, and I'm going, what is autophagy? And then I read in our write-up for ketonic, this promotes autophagy because it is included with resveratrol. In other words, this little thing with a little scoop, not a big scoop, this little scoop is loaded with these things that take you officially from glycogen, glucose use, glucose storing energy into burning ketones efficiently. You know what happens with excess glucose that doesn't become glycogen for muscle contraction? It's stored as fat. Drink a couple sodas a day, you see what I'm talking about. It has another bioavailable form of B12 called methylcobalamin. It's in there. B12 deficiency is very common in aging populations because they're on certain drugs or, the proton pump inhibitors for digestion or indigestion. And when you're on certain drugs, you're B12 deficient. That's why you see a lot of B12 shots in the nursing home. Now, I'll be darned if I know why somebody takes a shot once a month of a nutrient they're deficient of every day. I don't understand that. So don't try to explain it to me because it makes no sense. But this has a bioavailable form of B12 that I'm for. B12 supports healthy moods, energy levels. You can tell I take it. Brain and cardiovascular function, baby. And healthy hair, nails, and skin. Boom. And it's flavored with stevia. Now, there's a lot of flavorings that are controversial, but stevia is clean, doesn't spike an insulin response, even though it's sweet. So it doesn't give you a glycemic response, or it doesn't do anything with your insulin levels. And you have organic freeze-dried raspberry power that's low on the glycemic index as well. Like I said, some of your berries are better than like bananas and stuff for glycemic response. Well, this raspberry extract doesn't give you a glycemic response. And that's really important. Now, there's two other products that I'm going to talk about for your intermittent fasting and hunger control. Maybe you're not that heavy, or maybe you want to lose 5 or extra pounds, especially around the midsection, because around the midsection is extremely, extremely dangerous. That's been shown. You've got the Budweiser tumor, guys. It not only pulls on the lumbar spine, the low back, and gives you lordosis and low back pain and dysfunction and disc and all that. But anything around your abdomen is really dangerous for your health. They showed that heart attacks and all that, if you've got that Budweiser tumor in the front, it's really, really dangerous. If you're going to do this stuff safely, you need a really great multivitamin. I can't think of anything else that's better than I've been on Daily Bio Basics for 20 years. My wife and I have taken this thing, and it's got 66 calories on the label, and I've had the keto idiots go, oh, 66 calories. Oh, I can't take it. Well, if you can read the label, it's got 10 grams of plant fiber that aren't even soluble. This is plant fiber from vegetables that literally passes through you, but you're getting all your 29 vitamins and minerals and getting some antioxidants, and you're getting 13 grams of plant fiber. So it basically might have like 10 calories. I mean, it hardly has any grams of carbs, even though on the label, just read, it's got plant fiber, insoluble plant fiber. It came from the product fact sheet, Brooke. Oh yeah, the product fact sheet, plus it's on the label. I had to really, yeah, but it's true. Thanks, Brooke, you're right. Hey, Brooke, I saw you live today, it was fantastic. Okay, and the third thing you really have to look at, because we're really getting rid of sugar, and you can throw your gut health out of whack. Dr. McKee took years to make our probiotic, and there's a little bottle called Biotic Blast, and 2 of these capsules have 14 different strains and qualities of good bacteria. These are 14 different probiotic bacterias. 10 billion bacteria with 2 capsules. 10 billion with a B. Unbelievable. Those 3 things, when you put with a ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting, and you watch your clean eating, or you're doing some paleo or some Mediterranean, or you're some South Beach, don't care. Just don't make it that crazy Atkins stuff or that crazy OptiFast. Nothing crazy. You need good carbs. You need fats. It's really crazy. I need 70% fats, but they've got to be healthy fats in the ketogenic diet, and they can really help you. So that's all I've got on this one for now. And I've run out of time. I appreciate the comment, Brooke, and I appreciate the questions. Anything else? I mean, I've just touched the surface, because the more I look at this thing, Todd, there's an Alzheimer's study on fasting with rats and mice, and with few exceptions, we're not that way. We're not rats or mice. And so I was really looking for human studies, no long-term studies. But I guarantee you 100%, whoever doesn't eat from sundown till sun up is a much, much healthier person.
Doc, thank you so much, man. Great information. Fantastic. Appreciate you, man.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
Hey, no, it's awesome. I'm going to share a couple things before I bring Reggie in. you know, today I worked with a company's producers, an insurance company's producers, and I spent the afternoon doing that. And this morning I crabbed for a little bit, so I had so much to do. I had no time for lunch, and I do intermittent fasting. And so, of course, I use BioBasics and put lots of nutrients in my body, but I don't eat food in the mornings. And so I really didn't leave enough time for myself to eat anything before going to speak for multiple hours in the afternoon, a 45-minute drive away. So I just did a little bit of protein and a little scoop of ketonic, and I came home at 5:30. I didn't put a bite of food in my body until almost 6 o'clock tonight, and that included an intense workout when I got up and walking around in the hot sun for an hour and a half outside. It was 90 degrees, and I was out in the water, and then working, and then teaching for 3 hours, and then no issue with energy. I mean, that's why I talk about the ketonic as an incredible product. Absolutely an incredible product. Will help everybody. And that's the beauty of it. You know, it's not just a product oriented towards weight loss. It's a product for health. And obviously, lots of people think about the weight piece, right? And so the fact that it really mitigates hunger significantly while giving you the clean energy and focus and mood. It also turns on longevity dreams. You know, Doc talked about resveratrol, and then resveratrol's little partner there, I think it's psilocybin. I cannot say that word, but it's another polyphenol that turns on the SERT genes, which turns on longevity genes. And that's one of the studies that have been done with fasting cultures over the years is they do live longer. Those cultures live longer and have a little less disease. But, you know, the beauty of this product is it's so flexible, and it's a gateway product. And, you know, I'm going to talk just briefly about the opportunity and a little bit about